Welcome back to Just Giants with Grump and the Cranky fan. We're going to have a really quick instant reaction to round one, the first night of the NFL draft. The Giants got 2 picks at number 3, Abdul Carter, and then trading up late into the first round with the Houston Texans. I think at pick 24, I should have had this prepared and written down, for Jaxson Dart, quarterback from Ole Miss. So I was just on the Giants Nation show with Bobby Skinner live for the entire draft, and I will continue to be for night 2 and night 3. But Cranky was actually at the Lightning game, so he was kind of texting me a little bit between, but I wanted to get his takes on all of this. Welcome, everybody, to the quick show.
Yes, we have an open marriage, by the way. Grump is not leaving me. We're not. This show isn't splitting up. We have an open marriage, so he's going to be on with Bobby quite a bit because he is very smart in draft things, and I am not. So I wanted to give my opinions on this. So, the Abdul Carter pick, I'm fine with. My philosophy for the draft is you try to draft as close to where the ball is hiked and work your way out. Um, you know, we this is a draft that most people assume there's probably only 3 or 4 guys that are really franchise type guys, and we were in that position to take one. And I'm glad we took one, and we can make a pretty good outside pass rush, potentially really, really good and really, really deep, and it helps us in the future. So I'm fine with that. But that's not really what I want to talk about. I want to talk about this Jaxson Dart trade. And my thing with the quarterback is, if I'm drafting a quarterback in the first round, or I'm picking one this high, I'm looking at someone who's going to be the future. Someone I with reasonable assurance, reasonable calculated risk that he's going to be. And I don't know. I just feel like the situation for drafting him, I think everything is wrong with drafting a guy like Jaxson Dart. I think he could be, potentially could be a decent quarterback, but like I was trying to rack my brain, and Grunt, maybe you can help me. When was the last time a quarterback was drafted and spent his rookie year as a third string quarterback and actually became a franchise quarterback? Someone that led his team for the next 7 or 8 years, upper tier of the league, got you in the playoffs, won some playoff games. Can you even think of anybody who's done that?
Jalen Hurts?
Was he third string his first year?
Does it really matter if it's third string or second string to you?
Yes, it does,
Okay.
because in my reasoning being, I think, is preparation. And I think, when you're a third string quarterback, you know, you are not going to get the attention that you need to develop as a quarterback. You're not getting, the amount of reps you're going to get, during the week. You're not going to be really part of game preparation because you're going to get, obviously, your starting quarterback and your backup quarterback as much. They're going to get the vast majority of reps. So I almost feel like you're kind of almost wasting that first year development. Sure, they're learning how to be in the NFL. They're going to be in all the meetings. They'll have the headset on. They'll get, but the amount of reps will be. I just feel like if you're going to do this, you might as well, you know, don't get an interim starting quarterback, an interim backup quarterback, and have this guy you're coming in and you're stashing for a year. I don't think he's, a guy like him. If we think he's going to eventually start and be a franchise guy, he needs to get prepared. So to me, it's just like, is this guy even be ready for next year? And like it or not, we have a head coach and a general manager that you know it's not assured they're going to be here next year, let alone the year after. And if they do move on from both of them, we're kind of might potentially have somebody come in here who wants a whole, different quarterback. And then we've wasted a pick and we wasted, you know, a trade for stuff. So to me, the whole thing is just kind of like the whole process doesn't make any sense to me, and I kind of don't like it. Tell me if I'm crazy for thinking that way, if I have making some sort of sense, or I'm right on, or if I'm in the middle of all that.
I don't know if you're crazy. I just couldn't possibly disagree with you more.
Okay.
I think that we can sit here and we can debate the virtues and vices of Jaxson Dart, the quarterback, the player,
Hmm.
the guy that they chose in this draft. That's perfectly fine, and I am open to that. He was the third quarterback on my draft board, behind Shadur Sanders, behind Cam Ward. I did have like Cam Ward, then like Shadur Dart McCord, like very very close down there, but he was my third. So I mean, if we want to have that debate, that's perfectly fine, and I'll understand that. For me, this is the exact scenario that you put him in. For starters, what you need to work on with Jaxson Dart, he doesn't need live reps. He needs to learn how to read a defense, which means he needs to spend a lot of time with a whiteboard. We don't know that he's going to be the third string quarterback, and we don't know what the snap share is going to be. We have no idea what that's going to be. And we don't even know if Russell Wilson is going to make it through an entire season where Jameis Winston isn't at one point the quarterback while Russell Wilson's on IR and Jaxson Dart is the backup. The situation of where Jaxson Dart is on the depth chart and how many snaps he's getting is going to be fluid. You're going to stash him for as long as you need.
And that's fair.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't think this is the precise situation. I would rather him be the third string quarterback, perhaps getting less week-to-week reps. And again, the week-to-week reps to me, I don't think make a ton of difference. You know what I mean? Those reps and him developing, like those practice reps, right? That is not really going to help him develop from week 1 to week 17. The training camp in the summer, all that stuff, he's going to be learning a lot. But the week-to-week stuff, for me, what I think that he's going to learn is the intricacies of the game planning week to week, the weekly grind, you know, and he's going to continue working on the side with a quarterback coach on the things that he needs to get better on. He does not need to be a part of, you know, learning the game plan for this week and like how are we going to attack this team? You know what I mean? So like what you're talking about with the snap shares, I don't think is going to affect him very much. Now again, I don't work for an NFL team. I could be 100% wrong on this, but I would rather him be doing that. This is the ideal situation to me, as opposed to the situation where it's like, well, he's going to have to compete for starting. Like that's throwing somebody into the fire that is not ready for the coals. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I don't know if I just made that line up, but it sounds like one.
No. But you know, it's just kind of like, you know, having him as the backup, even for example, it doesn't seem like when they signed Russell Wilson, they signed Jameis Winston, it kind of felt like, okay, we have a plan that we're not going for a quarterback. We're going to be okay for now. We're almost punting on the long-term decision. And now it just seems like, okay, well now we're not only drafting, we're going to trade up for one because all of a sudden we really like this guy and really want this guy. So I don't know. It just seems like it's mixed signals to me from the front office and from, you know, like what are we doing? And
no, I mean, again, I'm going to completely disagree with you because I think I've been saying all along that this is the way you handle this. If you are, if there's a guy, and again, this all hinges on if you like this guy. So again, any arguments about who Dart is, what he can't do, irrelevant. If Brian Daboll, the coach you brought in to get a quarterback and develop him, thinks this is the guy, then you defer to him. That's my opinion. Right? So if they think that he's this guy and it's going to take a full year if he's not ready year one, then don't throw him in the fire. That's how you wind up with David Carr. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want that. Well, I mean, David Carr's situation is a little different.
Well, David Carr is an expansion team with no offensive line.
Correct.
You know,
that was throwing different. Someone in a bad situation. But you know what I mean? Like, that's how you ruin a prospect. And someone who gets completely damaged right away is not going to be able to grow. This is a way to actually get him to grow. And they're going to invest in him. They did invest in him, means that they're not going to just let him rot as the third string quarterback. You know what I mean? Like, I highly, if that happens, then I 100% defer to you. You were right all along. If they let him rot, then that's stupid. But I just don't see that's happening. And as far as the trade goes, we're really talking about one of the 2 third-round picks this year and one of next year's third-round pick for a quarterback that you believe to be the future of the team is, to me, a small price.
Yeah, see, when I was trying to like irresponsibly drive and read the alert as we're figuring out, and I thought we'd given up a second round pick also without flopping second rounds. I was like, we give up a second round pick for this?
Well, we didn't flop second rounds. We took 34 and made it 24 for the cost of 2 third-round picks.
Yeah, I guess that's true. So, you know, again, I was driving home. It was late. I'm annoyed with my lightning, everything. So I kind of doing the math was like, what are we doing here? But I guess so. The compensation piece, I'm not as overly concerned as I was before. I guess I don't know. I wish this was last year instead of this year, where, you know.
Oh, one other thing, something else that you said about a coach and a GM that may not be here next year. I think that this solidifies that they will be here next year because he's not going to play this year. Unless something catastrophic happens, like Brian Daboll has another falling out with a coordinator and it's embarrassing, Joe Shane does something stupid, anything like, barring that shit, they are definitely going to be back for Jaxson Dart's start in 2026.
Well, I firmly believe that this team, the optics of this team will be better than last year. The record may not be necessarily much better, but you're not going to see having a quarterback rotation of Russell Wilson, then Jameis Winston, then if necessary, someone with potential Jaxson Dart. You're never going to see a situation where there is a Tommy DeVito on the field or a backup who, you know, is not an NFL quarterback anymore. Although what's name did get signed by somebody. So those are the type of things that would get this coaching staff fired and get the GM fired to look like we're not a competent football team anymore. So I think the optics will be better that, they may be lasting. I I just don't know if this is the guy that's going to guarantee their safety for the next 2 years.
That now, if we're gonna talk about Jaxson Dart the player, then that's a fair argument. You know what I mean? Like I said, he was the
Yeah, yeah.
third on my board. There are
Hmm.
things that he does better than Shitter Sanders for me, like taking chances down the field. I think he has the better arm strength, but there are
Hmm.
things that he does worse, and you know what I mean. So it's perfectly fair to be like, I don't see it with this guy. That's 100% fair. Personally, for
Yeah.
me, in Brian Dable's offense, I think he was the best fit, not named Cam Ward in this draft class to fit Brian Dable's offense. Does that mean that he's the best guy for the job? No. But if this is a situation, I don't think it's a bad fit for Brian Dable's offense. It's going to depend entirely on his growth. I'm
Hmm.
fine with it. And we said this on the show. I called this move. I called this exact move.
Yes.
Signing Russell Wilson and
I
drafting
have the
Jaxson
text.
Dart.
I have the text right here.
Do you really? I did text it to you?
The one you sent over back in March, whenever it
Okay.
was, March 15th, whenever. Yeah. So yes, I can validate that you did say that.
Yeah. So, I mean, everything in my core, these felt like Brian Dable moves to me.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um,
But the thing is interesting though. I think when you had said that originally, I didn't think they'd also go after a
Winston.
proven backup quarterback as well.
Uh, some of that, I believe, was protection in case the quarterback thing didn't pan out at all in the draft. Now you at least, don't have to
Yeah,
worry
and
about
also,
Tommy DeVito playing, etc.
yeah, I think it's almost more. I almost think it was more as protection that we don't want to see like that offense we saw last year and the year before, where it's not a functioning offense anymore. It's a
Right.
broken offense because we don't have an NFL quarterback. So I think that was more protection from raising the floor of this team than, well, if we don't draft one this year necessarily.
Right. And, and
Do
and the
you?
Giants did one thing that you were hoping for, or one thing that you said helps the franchise, and that's sell hope.
Oh yeah. And it's interesting that a guy like him, because I've already gotten some texts from people about well, Eli, because of the old Miss connection. I'm like, well, that was 6, 7 coaches ago. Like,
Hmm.
I don't know what relationship he has with Jaxson Dart, but if it's in the selling hope thing, sure. I'm curious. I haven't seen. I mean, what was the general take of the comments during the live show about, where people about him, the quarterback, not necessarily the trade, but him? Were people positive,
I th-
negative, indifferent?
so I gotta say it's probably 50-50,
Hmm.
because it was kind of 50-50 afterwards. But during the actual pick, I
Hmm.
had the comments turned off because our TV feeds were behind them, and we didn't want the pick spoiled.
Okay.
So we had all that shit shut off until the pick was made, and then Bobby always clips like the our instant reaction, the natural conversation, like the 2 minutes that follows. So like I didn't
Right.
undo it for that.
Hmm.
So I didn't see it until a lot of people had moved on. But everyone has a really incendiary take on both Dart and Sanders, and I think a lot of people feel like you have to like one and not like the other. Whereas with me, I liked them both almost the same for completely different reasons.
Yeah, I am not against. I mean, I don't know. I mean, again, I saw him in person. I saw him play in that Florida game, that one where he had kind of the little mini meltdown in the fourth quarter.
Mm.
And I didn't, just from the eye test of seeing that game, I didn't think he was impressive to me as a potential. Again, I really wasn't watching the game as like a scouting exercise,
Well, you
but just,
can't because you're a Florida fan and you're out of Florida.
right,
You
right,
just
right.
can't watch like that.
But like Cam Ward jumped out at me as like, this guy is an NFL quarterback. He's making NFL throws. This guy, Jackson Dart was like, Yeah, he's pretty decent, but I don't know. I'm not,
Well, I mean, we'll
that
get
for
into
that.
the we'll
Yeah,
get
yeah,
into
yeah, yeah,
the
yeah,
all the
yeah.
nitty
But
gritty on Jaxson
my
Dart in the coming months and shit.
my point is that I'm not like pissed off of him personally or him as his skill set about this. I'm just kind of like everything put together kind of makes me, a little like, well, there's a lot of if this happens and this happens and this happens. The bottom line is for me is I have to find myself a quarterback for the future, and a lot of variables have to happen for this guy in this situation to be that guy, and that makes me a little nervous.
I am I am excited only because it seems to me, and this isn't, I don't think, confirmed, but there's plenty of rumors that this was the Brian Dable guy, and the other people in the building wanted Shadur Sanders. I am happy that they went with the Brian Dable guy. That's what makes
I
me
agree.
happy.
At the end of the day, the coach is the coach, and the coach is the one who has to take the talent and be successful with them. So I'm glad the coach went out on this one, if that's the case.
Yeah. So that's our instant reaction. We will have perhaps more for the coming days. We have one, two less picks tomorrow. Just pick 65 tomorrow, so possibly there won't be an instant reaction tonight too. But day
Mhm.
3 we still have 105 and some seventh round picks and I think a fifth round pick too. So
Right.
be sure to
Unless you make
follow
some
the
more
show.
moves. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
unless they make some more moves. I don't
Mhm.
really see that happening. It does, Here's what
Hey.
stinks about trading up. I do want to say this. Trading up, you get rid of 99, which is your lower third round pick. It's basically a
Mhm.
fourth round pick. It was a comp pick. And you get rid of 34. You're left with just 65, and you still have some concerns on the offensive line. And I just don't know that anybody worthwhile is going to be available at 65 for the offensive line. And that was the thing where, like, I was almost pounding the table like they need a tackle in this draft. They need a tackle in this
Yep.
draft. And I don't know what functioning tackle is going to be around at 65. Maybe a stretch reach guy like Anthony Belton, who also kind of has some character issues, spit on a guy in a game, etc. So I don't know. I don't know. Tomorrow is where I probably will have my full um, feelings kind of come to light on the trade itself, right?
Yeah. Last thing before we wrap this up. When they announced the trade, who was the first thought through in your mind? Did you think they were going Shador?
I think Bobby and I flip flopped and were just kind of like thinking it was going to be the thing that we dreaded the most. So I thought it was going to not the most. I would have preferred Dart because I think it was Dable's guy, but I thought it was going to be Shadur, and the reason why is actually really simple. He's the one who's been connected to them since like December. I mean, he's dapping up Dable. He's throwing passes with Malik Neighbors in the street. There
Right.
have been non-stop connections. The insiders have told us for a long time there's tons of people in the building that like Shadur Sanders. Ryan Dunleavy was adamant that it would. I don't want to say that, but he has been very consistent that it's going to be Shadur Sanders. So for me, I was just like the connections are all there. I know in the last like week it's felt like Dart, but it's the lead up to the draft. That's when people lie, right?
Right. My thought when I saw trade was, uh-oh. And I got about 100 texts saying your worst nightmare is coming.
Which is what Sanders.
With Sanders. Right, right. But which personally I don't have the animosity towards him like I do his father. Not at all. I
Yeah.
mean, whatever. But yeah, I thought as soon as they announced the trade, I think he was still around, and I thought for him they're like, okay, he's falling. Let's just grab him. That was real. That was my thought. And then I saw Dart. I'm like, okay, well, it's not him, but hmm. Now let me think about this. So okay,
Yeah, I mean, like, I know we're doing an instant reaction to draft, but we
yeah,
won't really know how we feel about this for years from now. So,
right,
however we feel instantly is gonna be hopefully irrelevant, right? Because I mean, like, neither one of
sure,
us had a super
doesn't
great
matter.
feeling about Daniel Jones or Saquon Barkley being the picks. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, we'll see how it goes. But
On
we will at the very least have an episode on Monday, right, or Tuesday.
oh, for sure, Monday night will be definitely.
Perfect. So be sure to like, follow, and subscribe. Just Giants. Until next time, go
Go Giants.
Giants.